Welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills. In today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com, I'm your host, Freeman Owen Jr., and sitting next to me is Carolyn, my co-host, business partner, and lovely wife. Carolyn, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, Freeman, we have gotten so many questions from our viewers about required minimum distributions. They want to know what type of strategies are available to ensure that they can keep their retirement funds in their care, in their custody, and in their control. And they also want to know how they can double or possibly triple the value of their hard-earned retirement savings, and how they can reduce investment risk in their portfolios. So, Freeman, we need you to talk to us about these important issues so that we can do a better job of protecting our assets. So, the first question I want to ask you is for you to please define required minimum distribution, RMDs. What does it mean, and why is the concept behind it so important?
I'm going to try to make it very, very simple. It is very simple. The required minimum distribution is the annual amount you must withdraw from a qualified plan. Let me define qualified. That's pre-tax monies, and is often referred to as the qualified employer-sponsored retirement accounts. You have your 401ks, your TSPs, 403bs, and including in that a qualified plan, we can count the IRA. Now, each year, IRS says, well, look, by 12/31 of each calendar year, you must take a minimum distribution. This occurs at attained age 70 and a half. Okay. Now, let me share this with you, too. When you take these withdrawals, mandatory, there's a one-shot deal that's offered to you. And that one-shot deal is that you can take your required minimum distribution or the mandate withdrawal from your qualified plans the following year, April 1 of the following year. But the problem with that, Carolyn, is that these distributions are taxable. So if you take your required amount or withdrawal that is mandated by IRS, you end up with two taxable events the following year. So it's very, very important that you take the mandatory percentage annually before 12/31 of the calendar year. So that's a good example of what is mandated. And this will continue from 70 and a half and attained age right on through forever, unless you have some type of strategy to minimize your tax bite. Those monies that are withdrawn from the qualified plan or your pre-tax dollars is treated as or taxed as ordinary income. Okay.
Now, Raymond, that sounds a little complicated to me. Mm-hmm. So could you give us a real-life example so that our viewers can understand, especially some of our younger viewers have a hard time with that?
Well, let's put it this way. I'll give you a good example. We have a gentleman who's been taking his required minimum distributions since 70 and a half. He's now 80. He decided that he didn't want to take his required or his RMDs for the year. Well, he had $500,000 in his IRA. Okay. All right. Now, according to IRS, he's supposed to withdraw $26,000. Now, when he refused, he had a $13,000 penalty. All right. So what that meant is that if you don't take your required amount on your attained age, starting at 70 and a half, then you're fined 50%. And I don't think too many people are excited about being fined, and a lot of folks who just don't need the money don't like to take the RMDs.
Well, Freeman, now, I know you mentioned that age 70 and a half. It sounds like that's the age you're supposed to start taking your RMDs out.
Exactly.
But can a person get an extension by IRS to defer it a little longer? And then what's the absolute maximum time a person can defer an RMD? Okay,
let me preface the following, too. You can take withdrawals from your IRA and your employer-sponsored retirement account, which I refer to as qualified plans, starting at 59 and a half, you can get a penalty-free withdrawal. Under the age of 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. So I wanted to share with our audiences that there's a penalty if we take these monies before 59 and a half, and but after that age you can take your withdrawal penalty free. Now, there was a question that you asked me.
Yeah, I was asking if
about the
defer.
extension
Yeah.
and defer. If, now Carolyn, this is interesting. If you are employed and your employer has for you a retirement plan, employer-sponsored retirement account, such as I mentioned early, employer-sponsored retirement accounts are defined as TSPs, or thrift savings plans, 401ks, 403bs if you're an educator, and of course, you can have your own individual retirement account. But here's the kicker right here. If you are employed, and as I mentioned, your employer has for you a 401k that's offered, which you can contribute to, you do not have to take the required amount or the mandated percentage from your retirement account if you're gainfully employed after 70 and a half. The only time you have to do that is if you separate from service beyond the age 70 and a half. Of course, you have to take out a required amount, or a minimum, that is, based on attained age. Something else I should share with you too. This is interesting. Sometimes our viewing audience might be a little confused if they have their own individual retirement account, they're beyond the age of 70 and a half and have an employer-sponsored retirement account, and or possibly have an employer-sponsored retirement account that has not been moved from their old employer. They're separated from service. You still have to take the minimum distribution, the required amount, from the IRA and the old 401k or TSP or whatever employer-sponsored retirement account that has been sitting there, or you left that employer and separated from service and now you're with the new employer. So any way you look at it, IRS does not intend for you to defer the taxes on those contributions to these accounts, your IRA or your employer-sponsored retirement account, without taking at least a minimum annually before 12/31 of the calendar year once you reach 70 and a half.
Well, Freeman, based on information that you just gave us, or just shared with us, are there better strategies, as opposed to moving your RMDs or your monies from place to place? Are there better strategies?
There are some strategies which I like to share later on in this segment. One of the few strategies that you can set up is an inherited IRA. If you have loved ones, you can make sure that either your loved ones are beneficiaries, such that they can either, in the event of premature death or the IRA's death, owner's death, they can receive these funds spread over the life expectancy of the recipient or the beneficiary. Alrighty, rather than take a lump sum, and I'm going to talk about that, and saddled with a heavy tax debt. There are some other strategies I like to address too.
Well, Freeman, it appears that the IRA taxes can eat a person's retirement. You know, if they don't have an adequate strategy, because one day after hard-earned money that you have saved and worked for can be taxed so heavily that it erodes some of the money that you had planned on for your beneficiaries.
Exactly.
So are there some alternative considerations for that?
That's what I've been waiting for you to ask me.
Okay.
You said at the outset of our show here, Carolyn, keep your IRA in care, custody, and control. Yeah. I think that's going to be the theme of this information that we provide for our audience. Okay. So let's look at first the absence of a strategy. Let's have an IRA. We have an IRA owner who has $500,000. The beneficiaries are the loved ones, children, grandchildren, and the IRA owner dies. Well, since those beneficiaries receive this $500,000, there's a tax bite of $200,000. Now, let me share some strategies with you. Let's talk about the IRA income tax offset. Okay. The IRA owner has $500,000. required to take or mandated to take a percentage from their retirement account. Alrighty, you could purchase life insurance, a $200,000 policy with the RMD monies. Alrighty, the children or your loved one, grandchildren, whomever is the beneficiary. The proceeds from the life insurance policy is tax-free in the event of the death of the IRA owner. So therefore, that life insurance policy, which you purchased with your RMDs, is now that covers the $200,000 taxes, $200,000 worth of taxes there. So the beneficiaries pay off the taxes, $200K, and they are the beneficiaries of the IRA. They get the $500,000. Let me share with you another strategy too. It's called IRA income tax elimination. Now, let's set up a charity, and they are the beneficiaries. Alrighty. So we have the charity, which will be the beneficiary for the $500,000 IRA. Now, there's some benefit to you as the donor. You take the RMDs, all right, and purchase a $500,000 insurance policy. Now, when the IRA dies, the beneficiaries, your loved ones, will receive $500,000 tax-free from the insurance policy. The benefits you receive giving your having the charity be the beneficiary of your IRA, you receive some type of benefit too, but there's a total tax-free of $1 million, $500,000 for the charity and $500,000 to your beneficiaries. And lastly, what I want to talk about is a strategy called legacy enhancement. Again, let's make the charity the beneficiary of the $500,000 IRA. All right, Carolyn? Now, we want these RMDs that we take to grow. So what we'll do is says, all right, we'll have our loved ones as a beneficiary. We'll take the RMD and purchase a $1.6 million policy. So when the IRA owner dies, the beneficiaries receive $1.6 million. The charity gets $500,000. That is a $2.2 million tax-free total. All righty. So again, I'd like to go over the 3-point value proposition again, Carolyn, where I thought it was great when you said keep your IRA in your care, your custody, and control.
Well, we're almost ready for a break, but some of our viewers may still have questions about their RMDs. So how can they get one of your free retirement strategy consultations?
Okay. Now, you can just call us, and we're going to take a break. I want you to stay with us. We'll be right back.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Thank you for joining us on Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. And with me is my co-host, Carolyn Owen. And Carolyn, in that last segment, we were talking extensively about required minimum distributions. And then what we did, we came up with some strategies that our viewing audience can utilize. And again, I love to say this, care, custody, and control. And with those strategies, we also shared on how to potentially double and even triple the value of the legacy and take no additional market risk to the portfolio. So let's continue on with our discussion.
Well, Freeman, what happens when people withdraw money from their tax-deferred retirement accounts before the age of 59 and a half?
Well, let me give you a good example of with the employer-sponsored retirement accounts like the 401ks or the 403bs or even the thrift savings plan. If you're under the age of 59 and a half and you wish to make a withdrawal from those retirement accounts, immediately there's a 20% withholding. All right, and if you're under the age of 59 and a half, there's another 10%, which is a penalty. Now, outside of the employer-sponsored retirement account. Let's say we want to withdraw from the IRA, and we're under the age of 59 and a half. The withdrawal will still be totally taxable, but in addition to that, there's a 10% penalty that is applied to that distribution from an IRA.
Well, are there any exceptions to this rule for IRA accounts or employer-sponsored?
There are exceptions. I'm glad you asked me that. Some of the exceptions are the same for the IRA as well as the employer-sponsored retirement account. I want to cover the IRA first. With an IRA, you can take, there's no 10% penalty. You can be a first-time home buyer. You can set up what we call substantially equal periodic payments. Now, we've had the experience where we had what we call a 72T. This allows an individual who's under the age of 59 and a half to start taking equal payments. And what happens with that is that the funds you would withdraw annually are based on 3 rather complicated IRS-approved distribution methods. Now, once you start with this 72T, you cannot change or alter the payments for 5 years or until you reach age 59 and a half, so whichever occurs later. Qualified higher education expenses for you and your dependents. Qualified reservist distributions. Certain distributions to qualified military reservists called to active duty they're not subject to that 10% penalty. Now, on the employer-sponsored retirement account, I want to add this. Disability. Distributions made due to qualifying disability. They also can provide, these employer-sponsored retirement accounts can provide the 72T or the SEP-P, which is referred to as substantially equal periodic payments. At attained age 55, I think this is very, very important. Distributions made to you upon separation from service from an employer, you can start receiving or you could withdraw from your employer-sponsored retirement account after you're separated from service at age 55 and avoid the 10% penalty as well. Now, these plans that are set up by the employers, they differ. The TSP is a little different, say, from 401k. But I've seen, Carolyn, individuals who have separated from service have taken years to contribute to their employer-sponsored retirement account. Once they separate from service, the employer's plan may not allow them to receive or cannot withdraw any of those monies until they're age 65. So that you have to be careful about that. Also, qualified domestic relations order, which is referred to as quadro.
Okay.
This is where if there is a divorce, you can have in a divorce decree in which either spouse, ex-spouse, it depends, who has a qualified plan or an employer-sponsored retirement account can get 50% of the proceeds or of the employer-sponsored retirement account or the retirement accounts, even the IRA, if that's in the divorce decree. And also I wanted to share when it comes to medical care, this is critical. Distributions equal to the amount of your unreimbursed medical expenses that exceed 10% of your adjusted gross income in a calendar year. So there are exceptions to avoid, or I should say, where you're not subject, your assets are not subject to the 10% penalty, both on the IRA side and as well as the employer-sponsored retirement account. All right?
Well, when must taxes be paid for the IRA or the employer-sponsored retirement? That's
a good question. Anytime you take a withdrawal from that IRA or the qualified plan, you're subject to taxation. Let's say we take a withdrawal, we got $500,000, we're 70 and a half, so we don't have to worry about the 10% penalty. And we decide to take $50,000 from our IRA. Okay. Now, of course, that satisfies the RMD as well. okay? Because you exceeded the percentage that IRS demanded or mandated you take out.
Okay.
All right, so you take 50K. Now, for this, say, this tax year, January, February, you'll receive what we call the following year a 1099, which would reflect the distribution that you've taken out of your IRA. Now, that information, of course, is sent to IRS, and they expect that to be counted in as ordinary income. It goes along with your income from other sources, but this 50K now is also subject to taxation, and all of it. That's why they count it as ordinary income.
Okay, well, are there limits on how much one can put into an IRA or employer-sponsored retirement plan?
All right. For your IRA, let's take that first. You can put $5,500 in there each year. And if you're over the age of 50, you can catch up contribution of $1,000. So you could put $6,500 into your IRA. Now, the employer-sponsored retirement account, the contribution level is the same as the previous year. You can put up to $18,000 in your employer-sponsored retirement account. And then you can catch up with $6,000 in the same year. So let's say folks are trying to save money, or I should say on their taxes this year. Mm-hmm. They got until 12/31 of this year, and they can make that $18,000 limit and the $6,000 catch-up.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, Freeman, here's the $64,000 question. You know, I don't care how well you plan, the best laid plans, life happens.
Yes.
Things happen. Your spouse could lose a job, your kids or your grandkids may need help, you may have a major health challenge, and folks sometimes end up going into their retirement savings to cover these things. And you think about, suppose your grandchild has cancer, needs surgery or whatever. Now tell me what decent grandparent is not going to do everything in their power to make sure that their child or their grandchild is taken care of. Mm. So with that in mind, what advice do you give them, people on how to handle things and on these real life situations?
That has occurred in our career over the past 30-some years, where that did occur, where monies were available in their qualified plans or pre-tax dollars, and they had to take a distribution. Well, or the strategy I would use would be to take monies from the cash value in their insurance policy. All right, you can borrow those monies, and the distribution is tax-free. Okay. Now, of course, that distribution it depends on how the insurance policy is set up. It could decrease the face amount of the insurance unless it's set up such that the death benefit includes both the cash value and the face amount of that insurance. But one way is to take a distribution from your life insurance policy, get a loan on it, okay, and help save the life of your loved one. Now, when it comes to the employer-sponsored retirement account, some programs in which the employer-sponsored retirement account set up by the employer will allow for you to take a loan up to $50,000.
Oh.
Okay. Now, again, the loan is not taxed as ordinary income. It is a loan. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't even be reported to IRS. That's right. So you take $50K, and you'll be able to pay for that particular challenge that your child or grandchild would have. Now, here's the kicker. Suppose you separate from service and you have that $50,000 loan. Now, if you do not pay the loan back, what'll happen is that'll be a major taxable event. That entire $50,000, once you did not pay it back, you separated from service, that loan is a taxable event. So you have to be careful about that. But just to name a few, there are other strategies out there that can be utilized such that you don't take such a heavy hit on the taxes, and then you do a great job of saving the life of your loved one. So I just wanted to share just 2 of the strategies that are available, okay, that you can know something about there.
And that is of great importance. Now, Freeman, tell our viewers again, our young and our senior visitors, viewers, how they can get in touch with you if they need more information, if they have questions.
Oh, sure. Now, you could reach us. You can see the number, our contact information below the screen here. When you do, I'd like for you to also go to justaskfreeman.com. We have Preserving Retirement Assets and IRA Rollover Review, which you can get free. And Carolyn, I see that we're out of time, but I trust that we've shared some valuable information and education with our viewers today. And we want to remind you to email me at justaskfreeman.com, and you can get a copy of our free toolkit about all the financial services opportunities available to you. All right. Now, I want to thank you again for watching Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of justaskfreeman.com. Carolyn and I will see you next week for another great segment.